I'm going to be making blueberry wine. 5 gallons of blueberry wine. I'm going to use, you can either use 3 of these bags. These are 4-pound bags, and you get them at BJ's Warehouse. They're $10 for 4 pounds. You can either use 3 of these, which would make 12 pounds, or I have these in my freezer, and I picked berries, so I have these berries, and I have these berries from last year, and a little bag of these berries. So I'm using my own berries, plus these berries. So it amounts to 4, 8, 12, probably 13 pounds, 13 to 14 pounds approximately. Okay, so I'm going to take my blender, take some of my blueberries, dump them in here. Add a little bit of water. Put it on and puree. Pour the pureed berries into my big white bucket. I do that with all the rest of the berries until they're all in the white bucket. I'm bringing 2 gallons of water to a boil, to a rolling boil. Okay, I've pureed up all the blueberries, all 4, 8, 12, 13, 14 pounds of blueberries. And I added, probably when I did it, I took some of the water that was boiling out of this, it's getting hot, out of here, and mixed it in the blender. Otherwise, you could just use a little bit, maybe at the most 2 cups total of water. Now I've got almost a half a jug here, 2.5 gallons now of blueberry puree. Now I will add 10 pounds of sugar to it, then the 2 gallons of water. I've got my 10 pounds of sugar. I'm going to pour some of it into the water, which is going to come to a boil. It's my 10 pounds. I'm going to pour some of it in here so it'll dissolve. Almost about half of it. The other half I'm going to pour into the bucket down below. Down here. If you don't want it that sweet, you probably could use 8 pounds of sugar instead of 10. But this is kind of like a sweet blueberry wine, so it's going to be very nice. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. Stir it, of course. Bring it to a boil. And then pour it into I'm going to stir my blueberry stuff now down here. Stirring this, pour that water in it. And then I'll probably boil some more water to pour in it to bring it up to 5 gallons. I've just poured the boiling water into the mash and I've stirred it. Now I'm just going to let it cool to about 90 degrees, 85, 90 degrees, warm to the touch, bath water warm. Then I'm going to add the yeast. So it'll take a few hours for this to cool to that temperature. Okay, I have about a cup of water here. It's been boiled and now it's warm enough to add my 1 packet of yeast. Now I have Premier Rouge. You can use any of the active dry yeasts here that are for wine. So I'm going to add this to the water and let it dissolve. Stir it until it dissolves. couple minutes. This will do 5 gallons of wine. Okay. We're going to go in the other room and I'm going to add a teaspoon of lemon juice to the 5 gallons. I'm going to add my yeast nutrient and my pectin enzyme. Okay, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice to the blueberry stuff, the blueberry sludge. And I'm going to add, now this says Fermex yeast. It says 1 teaspoon per gallon. So I'm going to add 5 teaspoons of the yeast nutrient. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. The blueberries, oh, it's so thick, and it's so thick and beautiful. Look at that, gorgeous. That's gonna make the best wine you're gonna want. Wow, look at that beautiful blue. Blue, blue, blue. All right, then I'm gonna add to that, I'm gonna add drops of the pectin enzyme solution. And it says here, about 5 drops per gallon. Okay, I've got 5 gallons, so 25 drops. Oh boy. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what that does, it helps break down the fruit, and it clears the once it's it helps clear the wine to make it clear. Okay, now I'm going to add my yeast. Oh, look how thick that is. Ooh, baby, is that delicious. Oh, sweet as honey. Okay, so there's my yeast. And hopefully it won't overflow like the raspberry did the other day. The raspberry's still bubbling a little bit. Not too much. It's slowed down quite a bit. So it's almost ready to rack that already. So there is the blueberry, and I will leave it in here, and I will not put a cover on it because I don't want it to explode and come over, because that yeast is going to make everything start bubbling up and start eating away at the solids and make a pure wine. Okay, last night I took the whole big bucket of this blueberry sludge and put it into 2 buckets so it wouldn't overflow and ruin my floor. So now I'm going to stir it. This is morning 1, and you see the sludge on the top. You can hear it. You can hear the fuzzing, the alcohol working. I'm going to stir this one. Stir it once like that. And then what I do is I just have these covers here, and I just set them on top. They're not pushed down, they're just setting there just to keep the, in case there's any fruit flies. And that's it. Morning 1. On morning 3, let's see, I will take it and I will strain it. Okay, the blueberry sludge here is day 3 now. So now I'm going to take the blueberry sludge and take it by cupful and put it in here into the strainer. Now this looks terrible, this bag, but it's a wire mesh, fine wire mesh bag. I just sterilized it with Clorox and water, so it's all sterilized. So is this part of it here. It will go into the bowl here, and then from here I'll put it in my clean, sterilized carboy or polar water container. And then I will put an airlock on it. Here's the airlock. And the cork for the airlock is here. I'll put this together, the airlock and the cork like this, and then I'll put some water in there and put it together. Now, now I will start taking this one little bit at a time, a bowl at a time, and running it through and putting it into the carboy. There's the berry juice right there. Putting it up here. As close as I can to my over the edge. Now you can use cheesecloth if you want, or any other kind of mesh bag that you can put your fruit in. But now this is almost, it's almost solid now. So, I mean, almost liquid, total liquid. So here we go. Pour it into there. And you'll notice in the bag, going there, and then it siphons in. Now that is blueberry wine. That will be blueberry wine. And when it gets mucky down here, what I do is take it like this. I'll take this and I will squeeze the bag to get the solids, to get the juice out of the solids. Kind of like hundreds of years ago when the Italians would walk on the, you see the movies of the Italians walking on the grapes, squishing them with their feet. Well, I just squish them with my hands and tilting it up. Now I take the juice, beautiful juice right here. I'll take the juice and I'll pour it now into the top of here. And I will keep doing this until I get all the blueberries, 5 gallons of the blueberry juice siphoned. Until I get all the 5 gallons of the blueberry juice, the solids out of it, strained. Okay, the blueberry wine is right there now. I'm going to take this funnel off, and I'm going to put the airlock on, nice and tight. So now it'll start bubbling, nice and tight, good. Good. Okay, so now we set that aside, and the carbon dioxide will come out of that as the yeast works on clarifying and making more alcohol and turning these liquid juice now into wine. Out of that much, out of all those blueberries that I did, this is how much solids were left after I strained it and wrung it out with my hands. That's much. That's not much solids for all those pounds of blueberries we had. That's it, right there. And that will go out in the garbage because if I put it, it's got active yeast still in it, so you don't want to get any of this down your drain or you'll clog your drains. The blueberry wine is bubbling away in the pantry, in the laundry room here. And I'll just leave it there until probably a couple weeks, and then I'll siphon off the wine and throw away the leas dead yeast on the bottom. Okay, this has been 3 weeks now since I made the blueberry wine, and you can see there's sludge at the very bottom of it right here. It's that color right here, and those are the dead yeast leas. And so now I'm going to siphon it, take the top off of it. I'm going to put this gizmo here, this suctioning thing in here, and then I'm going to put the other end in the clean carboy down here. I've Clorox, this is clean, sterilized, so now that's going there. Now I'm going to put this here and start siphoning this into here. So put this in here. Not all the way to the bottom because you don't want the junk in there. Okay? You can see it's pretty clear. Getting clear. On the bottom, you'll see the sludge. See it in there? It's all the dead yeast. And it's about, that's how far I got to the bottom. So you have to throw that out. I know you hate to throw that much out, but you got to throw that much out. So now the rest of it is pretty clear, and it's down here now in this new new jug, new clean jug. And I lost some, but that's how much is left. Now I'll put the airlock back on it, and I will let it set. I think I'll put it downstairs in the basement because it's not burping much anymore. So I'll put it down there in the little darker and a little cooler, not much, and I'll let it sit down there. It'll burp not very often because the yeast it's mostly alcohol now. It's almost done. You could almost say it's done. But the thing is now it has to clarify. So it's got to settle, all the dead yeast has to settle the bottom and get clear. And it'll still, the sugar that's in it will still be eaten up by the yeast and still work. So it will bubble some, but not a lot. And so then I'll put it downstairs and let it sit for another 3 weeks, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll rack it again, and then I'll let it sit again, and then 3 weeks later I'll bottle it.